أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد. We continue with that which you have to pay zakat on and how much. Last week we spoke about the first two categories. What were they? What were the first two categories you have to pay zakat on?
You have to be Muslim.
Allah yahdik.
Cash, gold, silver.
Yeah. One of them was gold, silver, and whatever takes their place. From cash nowadays, etc. The other category you had to pay zakat on was?
Animal.
Al-an'am. Okay, good. The livestock. Livestock, that which a person has from camels, goats, sheep, cows, etc. We spoke about them, alhamdulillah, we gave some of the details. Today, inshallah, we speak about the third category of zakah, which is that which comes out of the earth, al-kharij min al-ard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, "O you believe, spend of the good things which you have legally earned, and of that which we have produced from the earth." That which has come from the earth and has some conditions, it needs to be...
What page, sir? Sorry.
18. It needs to be paid from a person's wealth in zakah, and we'll speak about how to pay it and when a person pays it. Again, this is not something that if you have a little garden, you're going to end up paying zakat on it, or if you have a few fruit trees, you're going to pay zakat on it. It's not absolutely anything that comes from the earth. We'll speak about some of the details, inshallah azza wa jal. There are two types of products from the earth. Number one, grains and fruit. Example of grains, wheat, barley, and rice. You will come to know that one of the conditions for that which needs to be paid zakat on, from that which comes out of the earth, is that it can be stored. It can be stored. It can be preserved in and of itself. If you leave it in a room for a year, it will be fine. Now I'm saying things like wheat, barley, rice, you get it, you leave it, no matter how long you leave it for, pretty much it's going to be fine. These are the types of things that you pay zakat on. So one of them are grains. The other example are fruits. Dates, raisins, almonds, pistachios, etc. Okay, that which comes from the earth, again, and can be stored. Again, we'll go through some of the details, make it clearer, inshallah. Just a question. He says here, almonds and pistachios. Scientists, you're not allowed to answer. Are almonds, pistachios, are they fruits?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to do something in life. And that is whenever anyone asks an obvious question, don't answer quickly. Because it usually means there's something behind it. You know what I mean? So I'm going to ask again, and I want you to answer, but the way that we advise you. So are almonds and pistachios fruits?
Yes.
You changed to yes? You still answer too quickly. You answer too quickly. Okay, I want you to actually think about it. Because the obvious answer is no. They're nuts, and nuts aren't fruits. That's the obvious answer. But there's a reason I'm asking, because it's wrong. Yes, they're nuts, but nuts are?
They come from tree.
They're fruits. They're not single cell, they're single seed fruits. Single seed fruits made up of
They're dried fruits.
mainly oils, very nutritious, etc., etc., etc. I looked it up on Google because I thought I was going to say, I'm like, come on. Nuts are fruits? Yes, I looked it up on Google. Nuts are fruits.
Nuts are nuts.
Anything with
Nuts
fruit
are-
is a fruit.
Anything, that's right. Everything, these are only single seed, so they're fruits. Okay, if you don't agree, you can look up on Google and argue with Google. The conditions that make zakat obligatory. So these are important for us to understand what is needed to pay zakat on, what's needed not to pay zakat on. The vast majority of us will never have enough from that which comes out of the earth to pay zakat on. But just like we learned with livestock, the minimum amount, it's important for us to learn the minimum amount and the conditions, so that if we do ever get asked, we're able to speak and explain to the people. Number one, that the produce is being stored. As for fruits that are not stored, such as apples, oranges, bananas, and other such fruits, then there is no zakat payable on these. When it means stored, it means stored by itself without the need for technology to preserve it. So nowadays, as you know, Woolies, the fresh food people, they can get any fruits and they can leave it in there for a whole year and then put it on your shelf and tell you it's fresh. No, that's not what it's talking about. It's not talking about that which is stored in a freezer for a year and it's still preserved. Now I'm talking about things which in and of themselves will be preserved. Like for example, dates. If you have dates and you were to leave dates in this room, come back next year and they're still fine. You can still eat it. Okay, raisins. Okay, dried grapes. Get sultanas, etc. Get them, leave them here, come back next year, they're fine. They don't need special refrigeration, etc. in order for them to be preserved. Same thing with like nuts. Okay, you got like almonds or pistachios, like the example that's given here. If you were to leave them in this room for a year, come back 1 year later, they're going to be fine, you can eat them. Okay, so that which can preserve in and of itself. As for that which needs something to preserve it, like a freezer or whatever it is, then there's no zakat on these things. Number 2, that the produce is measured. If they are not measured, yani in the olden days, they used to, when it comes to yani certain types of fruits and vegetables and goods, they used to measure it by either putting it on a scale and then seeing how much it weighs based on that scale, or they used to get it with a like a bucket. Okay, for example, I want 1 bucket of this. So the person will fill up a whole bucket and give it to the person. So this needs to be measured. This nowadays, no one really does it. Everything now is in the kilo. Okay, everything now is in the kilo and pounds and etc. So this condition, you won't find that as common with a lot of. So nowadays, you won't find that that which is measured, they buy in the kilo, etc. It's going to be there. But the second condition, that the produce is measured. If they are not measured like vegetables and fruits, let's say you buy a pineapple, for example, you buy one by itself, things like that you won't pay zakat on, okay, because it's not something that's measured. And there is no zakat payable on them. Number 3, that one has in his possession at the time that the zakat is obligatory, the nisab. As for the one who acquires them after the zakat being obligatory, then he does not have to pay zakat on it. So when do you have to pay the zakat? We'll read after. The person needs to have it at the time that the zakat is due. So the person that owns that farm or owns that piece of land that produces his produce, he has to pay zakat on it as soon as he gets it. As soon as he harvests it, that's when he has to pay zakat on it. He's the one that pays zakat on it, different to the person who comes after and buys it. If you went and bought it, then this goes into the category of trade goods. Okay, the urud al-tijara, which we'll speak about next, inshallah. Now, but this is talking about the one who, he's the one that produced it, he's the one that owns it, he got it off that particular land, and they have to pay the zakat at that time. So, when is the obligatory time for that zakat? The zakat on grains is obligatory once they toughen and harden, and on fruits once after they ripen. When fruits or grains are sold, after the time it becomes obligatory to pay zakat on them, it is the seller that must pay the zakat because he is the owner at the time of obligation. And when it became ready for zakat, at the time, as soon as it's ready, and the person harvests it, that's when the person pays zakat. So if a person, after it's obligatory, person comes and buys in bulk thereafter, then they don't need to pay zakat on that. An example, let's say a person had a fruit shop, or a person had a convenience store, and he bought a massive shipment of nuts, for example. Does he have to pay zakat on the al-kharij min al-ard, that which comes out of the earth? No. He would go to urud al-tijara. The one who produced it in the first place, they would have to pay the zakat on al-kharij min al-ard. The obligation to pay the zakat does not hold until they have been placed out in the sun for drying, and the zakat is to be paid once the grains have been sieved and the fruits have been dried. And there are some of the fruits, like for example grapes. The grapes itself, are you going to pay zakat on it? No. If a person had grape trees and he sold grapes, he gets it, he picks it, he sells it. You don't pay zakat on grapes. Why don't you pay zakat on grapes, Adam? Allah Yahdi.
It's not from the ground.
No, because
It's not from the ground.
you got to
It comes from a tree.
And
And
the tree comes from the
the
heavens.
tree's from the ground. The grape's
Yeah.
not.
Allah Yahdi. Where did dates come from?
it's not stored.
It's not stored.
It's not stopped. Jazakallah khairan. Alhamdulillah, you had the whole left side. I need to help you. But of course it comes from the ground. Anything that comes from the earth, that includes the trees, the fruits.
Okay.
The fruits, they get up like the date palm tree. The dates come from the where? You mark and say you can
From the
believe
tree.
it.
That comes from the ground.
Yeah, okay, they come from the tree comes from the ground. Jayyid. But you don't pay zakat on the grapes because the grapes are not stored. If a person takes the grapes and ripens, and he dries them out until they become raisins. Now that's when a person now pays zakat on it. So when he gets it straight away, it's not, he doesn't have to pay for it. Then after it's ready and it's been prepared for that storage, that's when he pays zakat on it. Again, a lot of these things, they're technicalities, which a lot of people, you're not going to go through, but this is just good information to have, especially getting your mind ready for being, inshallah, in the future, student of knowledge.
Sheikh, questions are later.
The questions later. Questions always at the end.
ماشي.
The nisab for fruits and grains. The minimum threshold is 5 awsuq. Okay, 5 awsuq, where each wasaq is equal to 60 sa'. Don't worry, it's going to come in the kilograms. But these are some measurements that were used at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and they are the ones that are going to come in the ahadith. A sa'. You should know what a sa' is. Who knows what a sa' is?
A handful, or is it? Sorry, 2 handfuls. It is.
Why do you seem like you're proud and disappointed at the same
I'm,
time?
I'm proud at how confident and brave he was at answering Tabarakallah. He's like the person in a war that's so brave and confident that he charges at the enemy. The issue is he forgot his sword back there. You got the theatrics, I give you 50% for. The
Better
answer
than
you
nothing,
failed.
sir.
The answer you failed. Who knows what a sa' is? You were close, but not close enough.
Or is it 3 maybe or something? It isn't
How
bad.
many? Like, give me a measurement.
3.
640.
Allah yadik. That's still wrong.
3 handfuls.
Even though you tried to check, it's still wrong.
I think it's a kilo and a
3
half.
handfuls.
Very close. 4.
4 handfuls.
Okay. So, if a person, the average person's palms, okay, if you was to grab, like let's say there's rice, you were to grab rice with your 2 palmfuls. This is called amud. Amud. Okay? Amud, not a sa', this is amud. 4 of these is a sa'. 4 of these is a sa'. Okay? So one sa' is 4 mud. The Prophet ﷺ, he used to, you hear the hadith, he used to do a wudu with how much?
Amud.
With 1 mud. Okay? He could do wudu with 1 mud. And subhanAllah, if you try it, you just get a bottle, get a 600 ml bottle, and make wudu from it. And believe me, you'll realize you can also do the same, subhanAllah. But yani, theoretically, we think one thing and practically we do something else. So believe me, you can do it. Just like the Prophet ﷺ done it, you just need to give it a try. So a wasaq is 60 sa'as. And a sa' is 4 of the mud. So the nisab is 300 of the Prophet ﷺ sa', yani 5 times 60 is 300, which is equivalent to approximately 612 kilograms of weight. Approximately 612 kilograms of weight. The evidence of this is the saying of the Prophet ﷺ. There is no zakah due on grains or dates unless they reach 5 awsuq. 5 awsuq. So if a person has approximately 612 kilograms of what they produce, approximately, then this is when your zakat is going to become an obligation. Or if a person has the amount of sa'as that the Prophet ﷺ used to have, okay, yani that measurement, if a person had that amount from another particular produce, even if the kilos aren't exactly the same, then a person is going to pay zakat. Which means that you can automatically remove out anything that you have, for example, in your backyard. A person has tomato trees, he's got mango trees, whatever he has, automatically remove that. Just based on the weight, remove it. Okay? Person has a little vegetable patch, get rid of it. Person maybe in their home country, maybe there's some land that they have, but it's nowhere near, and they'll be lucky to produce 100 kilos. They'll be lucky to produce 100 kilos. Now this is yani, not zakatable. Okay? It's what you produce at that time. Yani, in that 1 year, you're getting it. If not, then you're not going to pay zakat on it. So this is really for those that yani, have much bigger land, that they are paying yani, big money to upkeep, and they're making big money off. That which people do like on the side, usually, very rarely, they're ever going to pay zakat on that. Or what they have is going to turn into urud al-tijara, which we'll get to next, the commodities. Different varieties of the same fruit or grain harvested in the 1 year are combined to make up the nisab. For example, sukkari dates will be combined with bahri dates because these are varieties of the same type of fruit. Different types of fruits or grains, however, are not combined to make up the nisab. For example, barley and wheat should not be weighed together, nor should wheat and dates be weighed together. So if a person has, let's say he's got a date farm, okay, and he's got all these different types of dates. They are all added together. Or let's say he's got a rice farm. He's got white rice, he's got basmati rice, he's got brown rice, all different types of rice. Okay? Because they're the same type, even though they may, in the specific differences, be different, but they fall under the same category of rice, they're added together. As for if a person had, let's say, 200 kilos of rice, and he had 200 kilos of dates, and he had 200 kilos of almond, and 200 kilos of raisins, he doesn't add them together. Okay, because they're all different types, they don't fall under the categories. Just like if a person has 1 camel, and he had 2 sheep, and he had 5 cows, he doesn't add them together in order to make up the nisab for the livestock. The amount of zakat on fruits and grains, the obligatory amount is a tenth, yani 10%, on what has been irrigated without the use of stored water or at an expense, such as crops irrigated with rain, water, and from springs. That which is naturally fed through free sources, and there's a lot of rain in a particular area, or there's creeks and there's rivers that a person can easily divert the water to his land for, and he doesn't have to pay for that water, then that person will pay 10% of the that which comes from the earth. Will pay 10%. The obligatory amount of zakat is half a tenth, and 5% on that which has been irrigated using water that has been stored or with an expense, and he had to pay for it, which is the vast majority of water around the world nowadays, such as crop irrigated with water from a well. That which you had to put in effort to expense from your time or your money to upkeep, like you had to make a well, or you had to make a storage tank, or you have to pay for the irrigation itself, that you pay 5%. That you pay 5%. And you see very quickly, this is a difference from the 2.5%. The other amount, the norm for zakat, is 2.5% of your wealth. And that's why it's not good when you talk about zakat to say blanket 2.5% of your wealth. Okay, if you're giving da'wah or you're introducing someone to Islam, you can say there's an obligatory amount to pay. If you want to make it very easy, which is usually 2.5% of your wealth. Okay, what if the person developer has got a big factory, etc.? Then this is going to pay a little bit more. Now, the obligatory amount, we know if something was irrigated 100% from free sources of water, like rain, or someone was using water that he paid for. And what about if someone was in the middle? He used a little bit of this and he used a little bit of that. The obligatory amount of zakat is 3/4 of a tenth, and 7.5% on what has been irrigated using both sources, such as crops that are sometimes irrigated with rainwater and sometimes with water from a well. If it was a very minimal amount, like in the year, for example, only once or twice it rained, then no, he's going to pay the 5%. Or the opposite, if it's always raining and once or twice in the whole year he had to use water from himself, he's going to pay the 10%. Now, but we're talking about if it's close to 50-50, 50-50, 60-40, etc., this is when it goes to the 7.5%. The evidence for this is the saying of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam: for things which were watered from the sky, rivers or springs, the zakat is 1/10. For things which were watered by bringing water to them using camels, the rate is half of 1/10, only 5%. طيب. Something which is more practical and a little bit more common to us, especially for those that have it as a hobby, which also comes from that which comes from the earth. Okay, minerals and the like. Al-ma'adin. A mineral is whatever is extracted from the earth which is not from the earth's soil, such as gold, silver, metals, gems, lead, and other ores that are extracted from the earth. So if a person, maybe he's got a hobby where he goes out gold hunting, or he has a company where they do earthworks, and maybe they are involved in certain businesses where they produce, for example, copper and the like, then they obviously need to pay zakat. The nisab and the obligatory amount, if the resource extracted is gold or silver, then the nisab and amount of zakat are as mentioned previously, which is, let's say a person was out gold hunting, and he came across, tabarakallah, a nice big piece of gold. Then he has to pay zakat on that which he produces, if it reaches the nisab. What's the nisab for gold? 85 grams. In grams? 85 grams. Good. And then silver, let's just say, for example, if pulled up silver, how much is, what's the nisab for silver?
600.
Don't say, see, this is how like haram and bid'ah and misguidance starts. One person called out something without knowledge. Now all of you have the number 6 in your head. It's got nothing to do with 6. It's close to 600.
What's the question?
595.
500.
595 grams. Close to 600. Let's see the bid'ah that you started. 1, 2, 3. ومن سن في الإسلام سنة سيئة كان له. So if a person pulls out that gold or pulls out the silver and it reaches the nisab, then they'll need to give the zakat that is payable. For the other types of minerals that are extracted, the nisab is whatever quantity has a value that amounts to the nisab of gold or silver. So let's say in Australia we're using the silver nisab, okay, which is approximately $670 approximately. Now, approximately. So let's say a person pulled out copper, okay, and he went to sell that copper, and the value is the same as the nisab for silver, almost. Let's say it was $670. Then he'll have to pay zakat on it. How much does a person pay for that which he extracts from the earth? The obligatory amount of zakat on such minerals is 1/4, meaning 2.5%. Okay, like gold and silver, he'll pay 2.5%. So if a person, okay, to summarize, if a person finds something that he owns, why that you own, sometimes you might be on land, anything that you find has to go to the government. Or you may be working for a company that you have to give it to that company. Something that you find and you own that you get to keep. Okay, and it is from the earth. It may be some precious mineral, some precious rock, whatever it is. And you extract it from the earth. Now, this is something that you pay zakat on if it reaches the minimum nisab. In Australia we go off silver, so approximately $670 worth or more, you have to pay 2.5% on. The time for the zakat that you pay on it, as soon as a person obtains and owns a mineral, they must pay the zakat immediately, as it is not a condition that a year must pass. Why? Because it falls under al-kharij min al-ard. It's different to currency. Al-kharij min al-ard. طيب. Any questions on al-kharij min al-ard?
Yes. Like adas and all that kind of stuff is part of the fruit and
The stuff, yeah, if it's from the
Stored.
earth and it can be stored, and it can be stored, yes, it falls under that condition.
Olives.
Olives will go off through how?
Drying it, you can dry olives.
Yeah, but it would, if you got olives, for example, and you were to leave them, like just out in the open, or out, let's say you get the olives and put them in this room, off the shelf and put them here, would they stay?
With the liquid, it will.
Hand up. Yeah.
With the liquid, it will.
Okay, so this is the second one. This is the second lesson I'm going to give you. Allah Azza wa Jalla gave us 2 ears. Yes? And with these 2 ears, very, very, very important that we use them properly. Let's say, for example, you are driving. You got a gearbox. If you want to get forward, what do you put it in? You want to get backwards, what do you put it in? Reverse. Afek. Which means that some of you may have something, but you got to use it properly. So it's not good just having it. So I've got 2 ears. We'll listen properly. We said when it comes to preserving, that it has to be able to be preserved in and of itself. Don't go on your phone. It's fine, don't worry. It's a little bit of heck. You get blood coming to your face. You got to be fasted, but you'll learn, inshallah. So it has to be preserved in and of itself. That which needs a fridge or preservatives or water to be added to, etc., that's not going to be preserved in and of itself, so you don't count that.
Recycling. Copper, for example.
What do you mean?
I mean, copper's quite expensive now, so like you collect copper.
Again, that if a person has it to make money on, let's say he bought it to invest in or whatever, that's going to come in now. We're going to speak about trade goods. This is only about that which you have in the earth and you take out, you extract.
With regards, just to clarify, with regards to the mineral, is it a one-time off?
Yes, one-off.
One-time off.
One-off at the beginning, but then it depends on what you're going to do with it the next year. If you have it to sell the next year, then it becomes trade goods. Urud al-tijara, which we're going to talk about now, inshallah.
When you have like gold, silver, and like money, that adds up, yeah. But what about if you have like different types of minerals? Does that add up, or
No, different types of minerals, no.
it doesn't add up? But if you have money, silver, and gold, that adds up.
Yes, because all considered currency. All considered currency.
But what if you extract from the earth gold and silver? Would that
You mean different types of minerals? And for example, you put out copper and you put out. Allahu Alam. I've got to check.
Sheikh,
What you mean with
the lady that wears the gold that's more than 85.
شو خاص هذا بهذا؟
I'm just
خلينا
asking.
بالخارج من الارض لا خلينا بالخارج من الارض because once we يفتح
That will come later.
Yeah. We already came with us last week.
Um,
طيب the trade goods. لا.
could,
Trade goods. طيب this is also important especially for those that either have shops where they sell things or they buy things and they sell it or they have something for sale. So this can also be one that is very relevant to everyone, just like we had on gold, silver and cash. This can also be relevant for everyone. Why? Because a lot of people, they have things for sale which doesn't sell and the zakat is due on it and they don't pay their zakat. Okay, so it can become a problem for people. So it's not just for people that have shops. Obviously they're the ones that will be most affected by this because they're buying and selling all the time. But then there are people who on the side, like as a hobby, they'll buy and sell things, so they need to know the rulings of when they give zakat and when not. Or sometimes a person, it's not even a hobby or it's not even his side job, but he actually has something for sale. And he's been trying to sell it for a long time and finally hasn't sold. He may have a house, he may have a car, whatever it may be, he actually has it for sale and hasn't sold. So what does that person need to do? He has to give zakat according to the conditions that we'll go through inshallah. Tayyib, definition. Trade goods are those things which they have been prepared for buying and selling in order to make a profit. Something that you have, you bought it, and now you're going to sell it, or you bought it with the intention of selling it, or you bought it with the intention of preserving your money, etc., and then selling it at a later time. This falls under Urud at-Tijara. Trade goods, yani commodities. This includes all types of wealth which are not in the form of currency, such as cars, clothing, fabrics, metals, woods, anything else that has been made ready for trading. Khairuddin, if you remember when you asked me about coins, and we said, for those that, for example, collect coins, okay? Let's say it's an old 20-cent coin, or it's a newer one, but it's been hit incorrectly. So a person wants to get it and wants to keep it because it's been hit incorrectly. Let's say 20-cent coin. Is he buying the 20-cent coin for its value? No. You know it's 20 cents? That's not what he's buying it for. He's buying it because of that mistake. It's going to become a collectible item. So he's not using it for currency anymore. That's why it becomes under Urud al-Tijara. Falls under Urud al-Tijara because he has it now not to use it as currency. Currency is in the other category. This is anything that a person has in order to buy so he can sell. Or he bought it in order to keep his money and then wait till the price goes up and sell it at a later date. Or he has it, his intention has changed, now he wants to sell it, etc. These are things that he's going to pay zakat on. The ruling zakat on trade goods is obligatory, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the meaning, take sadaqah, in this case it's talking about zakat, from their wealth. And wealth from trade is one of the most obvious types of wealth, and so it's obligatory to pay zakat on it. Most scholars are on the opinion that it's obligatory to pay zakat on trade goods. Conditions that make zakat obligatory. For zakat, the Hanafi madhab doesn't have urud al-tijara. Okay, the Hanafi madhab doesn't have it, but the vast majority of ulama say it's an obligation. Conditions that make zakat obligatory. For zakat to be obligatory, one must intend the goods for trading by meaning to make a profit from them, since the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Innama al-amalu bin-niyyat." A person, when he has this particular position, that his intention is to make money on it, to sell it, whether it is right now or to preserve it later on. So if a person intends to trade in some goods and then changes his intention, deciding to keep the goods for personal use, the year for which one must possess the goods is cut off. If he then intends to trade in them again, the year starts again from that moment, unless he means to get out of paying zakat, in which case the year is not cut off. An example, if a person buys land in the month of Muharram and the intention of reselling them for a profit, and then in the month of Sha'ban, he changes his intention to building on and living in it, then the year is cut off. And the year is cut off. So again, you have to use the Hijri calendar because the Gregorian calendar is a little bit longer. Okay? But we just, to make it easier, use the Gregorian calendar date. If a person in January, he bought a piece of land, his intention, I'm going to buy this land, and then wait for the price to go up and sell it. Then in August, he said, you know what, I've thought about it, I like this land, I want to build on it and keep it for myself, I want to live in it. So his intention changed from buying to sell it to owning it. For it to become a possession of his, he doesn't have to pay zakat on it anymore because the year hasn't passed. the year hasn't passed. Then in the month of Shawwal, so let's say October, he returned to his intention of trading in it, then the year starts again from the month of Shawwal. So now, if he has it from October to the next October, that's when he will have to pay zakat on it. However, if his intention was not truly changed and he simply intended on tricking his way out of paying zakat, then the year is not cut off. So in dunya, you have tax write-offs and tax evasion and all of these types of things. Yep, no problem. This is dunya. You get caught, that's up to you. Sorry, brother. Okay, when it comes to zakat, there's no running away. There's no running away from zakat. You can't trick Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't trick Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person, again, will use the Gregorian calendar months, even though we should really be able to use the Hijri months, but we'll just use it to make it easy on the people. If a person in January, let's say he had that piece of land, in January he had it for sale, it's worth $1 million. How much does he have to pay zakat on the land? It's 2.5%, you need to make it easy. So how much? 25 grand. In January, it's for sale. It's not selling, it's not selling, it's not selling, it's not selling. He says, man, if I don't sell it now, let's say we're getting to November. He says, man, if I don't sell it, I'm going to have to pay zakat on it. He doesn't want to pay zakat on it. So he says, you know what? I'm going to change my intention now, quickly. So in December, he says, no, I don't want to sell it anymore. My intention now is to build a house on it. Build a house on it. What happens there? And then let's say he goes, like after January comes, and he goes, like, I want to sell it again now. He can't say, wallah, I changed my intention because I was sincere in it. No, he knows himself. He knows himself. Everyone knows themselves. If you actually change your intention, no problem. But if you change your intention simply to try and get out of paying zakat, then that's not acceptable. And you can lie to yourself now, but you can't lie to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. So even if he said, I want to sell it just to get out of it, it doesn't cut off the year. Okay, the year remains.
No zakat evasion.
No zakat evasion, no. The nisab and obligatory amount. In this dunya you can, because in the Islamic state there will be people that come and collect the zakat. So a person will come. Islamic state means like not the terrorist guys. We're talking about an actual, like if there was an Islamic country with the Sharia, etc. Almost got done. The nisab and obligatory amount. The nisab, if the value of the trade goods amounts to the lesser of either the nisab of gold or silver, then it is obligatory to pay zakat on these goods. So what's the nisab? The nisab is the minimum or that which is used from the gold or the silver. In Australia we said we use silver. So if a person has a trade good, a commodity worth approximately $670 or more, and the second condition, he's had it for a whole year. He's had it for a whole year with the intention of selling, then he has to pay zakat on it. He has to pay zakat on it. The obligatory amount of the zakat is 2.5%. When we say the minimum amount, meaning if it was worth $500, if he had something for sale worth $500, then it's he doesn't pay zakat on it. But this is you combine. If you have trade goods, you combine them with the trade goods that you have and the rest of your currencies, cash, gold, silver. Okay, cash, gold, silver. You combine them with your trade goods. Why? Because they're all considered from your wealth in that regard. They're all things that you move around to buy and sell with. And the time, if a person, let's say he had a car for sale, okay, he had a car for sale, it's worth 50 grand. He had it for sale, 2 months later he sold it. That's not something that he has to pay zakat on because it didn't reach the time. How to pay the zakat? If a year passes while the goods are in one's possession, these goods are valued at their current market price, and then the zakat is paid either with some of the goods or their value. Very important. How do you price or evaluate the trade good or commodity that you have at the market price? Let's say a person bought a car. Where's Bill Matal? Let's say a person bought a car for $500, but it's actually worth 7 grand. You don't say, I don't know, but I bought it for $500. No. What's the market price? What's the retail price for it? Okay? You have to do it at the retail price. If this person got a bargain, let's say, mashallah, your mum wanted to sell her iPhone, brand new iPhone, whatever we're at, 15 Max Pro, whatever they are, and it's worth 3 grand. And your mum, because she loves you, she said, give me $200 and take it. You can't, and then you want to go sell it. You can't say, oh no, I've got it for 200 grand, that's what I'm going to pay zakat on. No, it's the retail price. Okay? The retail price. And on top of that, when it comes to paying your zakat, you can either give from the commodities that you have, the goods that you have, or you can give it value. Let's say a person has a clothes shop. Okay, he sells clothes. And the clothes are worth $1 million. He can either give $25,000 worth of clothing, or he can give the cash from it. Okay, he can give the cash from it. And again, in Australia, it's a little bit harder with a lot of companies to do it. But if a person goes overseas, the zakat usages, they're very, very, very broad. Now, whereas over here, usually you'll find that cash is going to be the easiest to help the poor and the needy here. But let's say a person, for example, he had a convenience store and he had like all of his stock, and the stock equated to $100,000, and so he had to give $2,500 worth of stock, and they could take from those goods and give it to the poor and needy. Beautiful. Okay? It's something very common and it happens. And they'll find that usually a lot easier to give than the cash, because not everyone has that liquid. Combining the value of goods and money, the value of the goods is combined with the wealth that one has in gold, silver, and paper currency to make up the nisab. For example, if a person has a few trade goods that do not amount to the nisab, say they are worth $650 for example, and he has paper currency to the amount of $450, which is also under the nisab, we combine these two amounts to make a sum of $1,100, which is greater than the nisab, and so the zakat is paid on this sum. Any questions on Arud al-Tijara?
Going back, now do you pay on the wholesale price or do you pay on the
Retail.
retail price?
Retail price. Retail price.
You sell something and you get the money for it. So that money you have to pay zakat on as well?
It's fine.
Like if you sell a car, you get like 50 grand for example, you have to pay zakat on that money?
Has the year passed on?
So you're still paying on that money, yeah?
So let's say your zakat is from during the first of Ramadan. Okay, your zakat is during the first of Ramadan. And in Jamad al-Ula, okay, you had your car for sale. 2 months later, you sold it. 2 months later, you sold it for 50 grand. So, is your zakat due on the commodity itself, on the car? Yes or no? The second name, no problem. Your zakat is due on the 1st of September. Yeah.
No.
Your zakat is due on the 1st of September. In January, you wanted to put your car for sale. January, February, March. In March, you sold your car for $50,000. Do you have to pay zakat on it? Yes or no? On your car?
No.
Like, let him answer, Allah yadikum.
Leave it slow.
Yes or no?
No.
Why?
Because they said no, I don't know.
Because he said no. You had your car for sale for 3 months.
Yeah.
Do you have to pay zakat on? Why?
Because not a whole year has passed.
Good, not a whole year has passed. So you sold your car after 3 months, you got $50,000. When's your zakat due? In September. So that $50,000, you put with the rest of your money. And you say whatever you have on the 1st of September, you pay. Whether you still have that 50,000 or you bought something else, or you spent it, or you gave it to me, whatever you want to do with it, no problem. But whatever you have left on the 1st of September, that's what you pay zakat on.
So if someone had intentions to sell that car, but he hasn't actually got it ready, it's not ready to sell, etc., and it's been 6 months, he's got plans that he will sell this once he gets it all ready. Now it's time, after 6 months, got it ready, puts it for sale, 6 months, or say 9 months, it's been 9 months altogether, and he sells it. So the whole year hasn't gone past. But the account from the time that he had the intentions of wanting to sell or actually putting it on the market?
Very, very good question. Do you begin, like let's say a person buys a project car. Okay, he buys a project car and he wants to build it. So he bought the car with what intention? To fix it up and sell it. As soon as you buy it, the intention starts and the time starts. Even if the car's not ready. Why? Because you could sell it still as a project car. You can sell it as not a completed car. But you'll pay the zakat on what it's worth as it is. So let's say you bought, for example, a 1970s Corolla, like a KE70 shape or something like that. Okay, KE35, something like that. Okay, you bought that in a nice old school Corolla, and it's very bad, and it's worth $2 grand the way it is. Now, but your intention is to, you gotta make it a $100,000 car. You buying it and you work on it slowly, it's not yet ready yet. And after a year passes, it's not ready yet. You've only done little things to it. You've taken all that, you've tubbed it, whatever it is. Now you say it's worth 10 grand, for example. So you pay zakat on the 10 grand.
How would you know that?
What about the
You look at the market, the people that know the market. And if someone was to buy it, how much would they buy it at?
Yeah.
Shaykh, what about the deductions on the investment that you put on it? Say you bought it for 2 grand and you put another 3 grand in painting and tires and stuff.
Whatever it's worth at that time.
Oh, so there's no deductions.
No.
What if that $50,000 what if you spend it before somebody has
If a person, let's say a person sold a car for $50,000, he sold his house for $1 million, and his zakat is due on the 1st of September. So he sold it and he had $5 million. But for whatever reason, it's all gone by the 1st of September, he doesn't pay zakat on anything. Yeah, it's whatever you have at that time.
What about if you bought a car, you've had it for 20 years? It's obviously increased in value, but you're not wanting to sell it.
Yeah, if a person has a possession, this is what we're going to speak about, subhanAllah, now, when it comes to the shares. If a person has a possession, you have something that you own, like let's say your house. Maybe you bought your house 20 years ago for $150,000, $200,000. Okay? Now, that same house is worth $1 million. But that's a possession, you're not planning on selling, your intention is not to sell it. It's just to have. Then you don't pay zakat on it. Same thing with a car. You may have like a car that you love. Like let's say for example, 1999 Senator, for example. Okay? All of these little vegan kids, climate change kids are like, what the heck's a Senator? That's what you got to get. You got to, yeah, okay, Tesla. So you have something that you have that's just yours. You like that car, you own it. Now, but it's gone up in value. Doesn't mean anything. It's only when your intention is to sell it, that's when the intention and the year starts. On Urud al-Tijara.
Yeah. Previously, you said you gave the example of a clothing store with $1 million of stock. And you said you can either pay zakat with money or with stock worth 25,000.
Yeah.
I heard that you're supposed to pay it with the stock, just with anything, not just the clothes, just with the stock. And the exception is that if you know, for example, the person, yeah. So, how do I explain?
I want to give you a break, and you want to come back to you?
Yeah.
Are you asking the asl is that the person pays it with his stock?
Yeah.
And if he can't, or there's a benefit to the person to give cash, he gives cash.
Yeah. So it's better to pay with the actual,
with the stock itself.
Yeah.
If it's better or not, Allahu A'lam. I'm not sure if it's better or not. But from what I know, you're allowed to. Is it better or not, Allahu A'lam? Hamuli. If the fact that you're even asking a question in zakat, I'm very, very, very impressed. I don't know what your dad has saved for you on the side, but
He's in the minus, Sheikh.
Yalla, tafadhal, Hamuli, go.
You still got to pay zakat on his
If you
debt.
only pay zakat, like you said, it's clothes or money. Can you pay half clothes and half?
Yeah, you can pay from both, yeah.
What if you start off with a mixed intention, meaning that you are buying a car to use it and sell it maybe 5 years later?
The maybe seller is you don't pay zakat on it. But if a person knows I'm buying this for my money to go up, and then because I know it's a good investment, and then later on I'm going to sell it. Even if I use it now, you still pay zakat on it. Goes back to what's the main intention? What's the main intention? Is your intention I'm buying it because I want to enjoy it, and at the same time I know alhamdulillah it's a safe place to put my money. If I want to sell it later on, I can sell it. Like women with their jewelry, they buy it and they say it's a good place to put my money. I'm buying because I like it and I'm going to wear it, and if in the future I want to sell it, I can. I'm buying this car because I like this car. I like it, and if I want to sell it in the future, I can sell it and make money. That you don't pay zakat on. The opposite is, this is a good investment, I'm going to buy it so I can preserve my money, and my money goes up, and later on I'm going to sell it. That's already the intention. Later on I'm going to sell it. And in the meantime, I'll use it a little bit. La, that person pays zakat on it. Like for example, let's say a holiday house. A person buys a house now, what's an area past like an hour after Sussex? Okay, good. Let's say a person says, there's a house on the water in Sussex, I'm going to buy it. My intention now, I'm going to buy it and sit on it for a year, because I know in a year the house price are expected to go up. So I'm going to keep it for a year. I'm going to leave it sitting there. And in the meantime, I'm going to go down every 1 month or 2 months to use it as a holiday with my family. The fact that his main intention is an investment, he pays zakat on it. But let's say he had the opposite. I'm buying it as a holiday home. I'm going to use it. But it's also a good place to put my money, because if in the future I decide to sell it later on, I can. That one he doesn't pay zakat on. So you look at your main intention. Is it an investment or is it a position, something for you personally?
But he's leasing it, Sheikh.
Who said he's leasing it?
If you can say that the car, if
You are leasing it. It's a holiday.
Investment,
He's going to use
you might are going to sell it in 5 years.
La. Oh, okay. And upgrade your car, for example. La. That's position. La, that's position. That's not investment. I thought you meant someone buys like a classic car. Like someone buys, for example, like an old, for example, Mustang or an old Dodge Charger, or buys a car now that's like a rare car that they don't make anymore, for example. La. If a person just buys a normal car, family car, and he's intending 5 years' time, I'm going to upgrade it. La, that person doesn't pay his zakat on it. Because he's not buying it for profit. Remember, he's not buying it for profit. He knows it's going to go down. He's not buying that for profit.
What about the house?
Same thing we said, if your main intention is to buy it for the profit, for the money to go up, that's the reason you're buying it. Even if you're using it like a spare home, like a second home, holiday home, etc., then you pay zakat on it. But if your intention is for yourself, I'm buying a house to live in, for me, so I don't have to pay rent. And I know that usually my money is going to go up, and I can sell in the future. But you're buying it for you to live in, you don't pay zakat on it. Or you bought a holiday house for you. There's a house on the water, mashallah, you have, Allah Fatih Halik, you got a lot of money. You want to buy a house on the water, an hour, 2 hours away. It's for you. But you say it's a good purchase. I can use it whenever I want. And in the future, if I decide to sell it, I can sell it. That one, his intention is not to buy it, to sell it. His intention is to buy it, to use it. If your intention is to buy it, to use it, no zakat. If your main intention is to buy it, to sell it later on to make money, that one you pay zakat on.
So if it is a single house, the house that you're residing in, and you make money of it. You made money for it. You have to end up paying zakat on it.
It will fall under when you intend to sell it. When you intend to sell it, it could be now in Khalas, you want to upgrade to your house. You want to upgrade your house to a bigger house. Once you say I want to sell it, that's when your year starts. That's when your year starts.
You are dealing with it as investment now.
Yes, because you're selling.
Even though it is your house.
Not investment, commodity. Commodity. There's a difference. So this is where we said why it's important for people to understand the rulings of urud al-tijara, and that's why I don't mind the question before we move on. This happens a lot. This is a very common question, especially with a person that has a house. If a person, now I want to buy a house for me and my family to live in, and I buy one, alhamdulillah, I live in it, everything's fine. I don't pay zakat on it, because it's for me to live in. Let's say in 10 years' time, mashallah, my family grows, I want a bigger house. So I put my house on the market for sale, and it's worth $1 million. My house is now on the market. My year starts from now. I didn't buy it to invest money in. That wasn't my original intention. But now the fact that I want to sell it, now it becomes a commodity. It becomes something that I'm buying and selling. So it becomes a commodity, so my year starts from now. If I sell it before the year, then I don't have to pay zakat on the house. If my intention to sell and it goes on for a year, then once that year passes, I need to pay zakat on the value of the house.
Whether it gets sold or not.
Whether it gets sold or not.
Conditions that make the zakat of trade goods compulsory. Is it when you make a profit, but if there's a loss?
No. If you, in terms of buying and selling, that which you bought with the intention to make a profit on. With the intention to make a profit on. But even if you made a loss, but it's over the nisab, you have to pay zakat on it. So for example, a person bought a house for $1 million, and his intention is to buy it as an investment property to make money on it. But then the market drops, and he has to sell it for $800,000. Even though he made a loss, but he still has to pay zakat on it. Why? Because it's above the nisab. Yeah, the year passes.
What if you have to pay, say, zakat on the house that's, say, worth $1 million? The year passes, but you don't have money to pay zakat on it.
Then it says a debt on you. So when you do have the money, you have to pay.
So just
You
to,
gotta- you
just,
gotta
no,
throw it
no,
out.
no, this is, just to clarify on that point. So if you have, let's say you bought something, a watch, for example, worth $1,000, and it drops, like the price you wanted it to go up, you expected it to go up, and it went down, and now it's below the 600 or the 595. You don't pay zakat on it?
You add that, because it's still a trade good, yeah? You're still intending to sell it.
Yeah.
So you add it to the rest of your wealth. You add it to the cash, gold, silver.
Okay.
So if they combined are above the nisab, you have to pay zakat on it.
Okay.
Any more questions on the trade goods? Tayyib. We'll quickly go through the shares, and then that way next week we can go straight to the people and talk to the zakat. Tayyib. The zakat on shares. A share is one part of equal parts of the capital of a company with shareholders. For example, a company with shareholders with a capital of $3 million divided its capital when it opened it into 10,000 parts, each worth $300. One such part is called a share, and the shareholders are partners in the company of the value of the shares that they own. Most of you know what shares are. For those that don't worry, you can't afford the zakat on anyway. Ruling on dealing in shares. It is mubah, it is acceptable to do in shares as long as the business of the company is not haram, forbidden, and does not involve dealing with riba. This is a common question we get asked all the time. Shaykh, is a halal to do with shares? Shaykh, what's the ruling on shares, etc. Shares is in and of itself allowed. It's allowed. Like any other business transaction, it's allowed. But just like any other business transaction, if there's haram in the company, then it's haram to invest in that company. Okay, what haram are we talking about? That the company itself is haram. Like for example, let's say it's a pig farm, okay, or it's an alcohol company. Okay, this is haram to invest in. Or there's haram in its dealings. There's haram in its dealings. Let's say it's like a clothing company or a shoe company or a car company, but there's a lot of usage of riba. There's a lot of usage of riba. Okay, are you going to get a company 100% yani halal? Very rare. But there's a difference between a company that openly deals with riba, openly deals in haram, etc. And between sometimes there may be a company which is all halal, but something in that company was haram. Let's say they made an advertisement with music. Okay, this is one thing, but it's not the company itself. 99% of the company was halal, they made 1% haram. Different to a company where it's a big chunk of its operations is haram. The problem in Australia is the vast majority of companies, if not every single company, is going to be involved in haram. Okay, so this is a big problem in Australia because of for them, riba is not haram. So a big number of their dealings is with riba. And for a lot of people, when it comes to investing, they'd rather borrow money, one, because of the tax write-off, two, with the repayments, they'd rather just pay the interest off, so they make a small amount of money, until they end up selling the product and making money. It's just the way businesses work. They prefer the way the banking system is set up and the tax system. It makes using interest a lot easier and better for the person, okay, and for the company. So a lot of companies, if not all the companies, they deal with riba, okay, and so my advice is to stay away from shares. This is my advice. If you want to go deep into it and to see, is the company dealing with halal or haram and the ins and outs, that's up to you. Okay, that's up to you to get into the nitty-gritties. But in Muslim countries, you find a lot more halal options. How to pay zakat on shares. Okay, you're asleep, but it's fine, a little bit more, inshallah azza wa jal, you'll be okay. If the company pays the zakat, then the shareholders do not need to pay anything because the zakat for the wealth has been paid. This is in some countries like Saudi Arabia and other countries. They already have, a lot of the companies that you invest in, they already have a calculator, they pay your zakat on your behalf. If the company has not paid the zakat, it is obligatory for the shareholder to pay it, and there are two cases that apply. The first case, if the intention of the shareholders is to trade in the shares themselves by buying and selling, then zakat must be paid on these shares. Once a year passes, the market price of the share is worked out or estimated by those with financial expertise, and then the profits made from these shares is added to their value, and if the sum of these amounts up to the nisab, then the zakah must be paid on these of 2.5%. Like trade goods. I bought the car in order to sell the car. A simple example. There's a car for $5,000. I bought it. I've had it for 1 year. It's now worth $10,000. How much is my zakat on the $10,000? $25? $250. $250. Okay, 2.5%. I bought it with the intention to sell it. The 1 year has passed. What it's worth now, I'm going to pay zakat on. Mumtaz? Mumtaz. Shares, same thing. If I bought the shares with the intention to sell those shares, I bought it with the intention to sell it. Whatever they're worth at the end of that year, that's what I pay zakat on. Let's say I bought 100 shares. At the end of the year, my intention is I bought them for their price to go up and for me to sell them. When I buy the shares, let's say I bought them for $8,000. The end of the year, they're worth again $10,000. I pay zakat on how much? The $10,000. Okay? This is for the one who buys the shares with the intention of selling the shares. There's a second category, and this is the ones who are not interested in buying and selling the shares, but they bought the shares so they can get the profits and get the dividends at the end of it. The second case, the intention of the shareholder may be to benefit from the profits and gains of the shares, and he does not intend to trade in the shares themselves. So a person, his intention, I bought, for example, 100 shares in the company. I don't want to sell those shares. I want to keep those shares in that company, and at the end of the year, I just want to collect the profit that comes from those shares. That person, how does he pay his zakat? Such a shareholder does not need to pay zakat on the shares itself. Rather, they must pay zakat on the profits made once a year passes on them, given that the other conditions for zakat being obligatory apply as well, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Meaning, let's say you have 100 shares, and they're worth $10,000. At the end of the year, your intention is not to sell the shares. You want to keep the shares. At the end of the year, the company works out their profits. You made $1,000 that year from those shares. They give you back as a profit, as dividends, $1,000. That $1,000 you take and you add to the rest of your wealth. Gold, silver, cash. Okay, and you pay zakat on it.
It becomes like
If you sell it, okay, you spend that money throughout the year, whatever it is, that money gets below the nisab, whatever it is, you just add it to the rest of your wealth. You add it to the rest of your wealth. If it's above the nisab and the year has passed, you pay zakat on it. If it's below or the year hasn't passed, you don't pay zakat on it. Okay? Clearer example in the exact same concept on an investment property. You have your house. You have spare, mashallah, $1 million. You go and buy a second house. Do you pay zakat on it and how? If you bought the house with the intention of selling the house, I bought it now for off the plan, $800,000. I'm intending when it's finished, it's going to be worth $1 million. I want to sell it when it's $1 million. So you bought it with the intention of the money going up, the price going up, so you can sell it. That one, if a year passes on it, you pay zakat on the entire amount of the house, because the house itself is a commodity. Second scenario, a person says, I want to buy a house and I want to rent it out. He bought the house, he can rent it out. He paid $1 million on the house. His intention is to lease it. He doesn't want to sell it. Maybe in the future, he sells Allahu Alam. That's no problem in the future. But right now his intention is, I'm buying the house to lease it out. So he leases it out for $30,000 a year. That $30,000, he just adds it to the rest of his wealth. That $30,000, he adds it to the rest of his wealth. Okay? At the end of the year, has he spent it? Has he saved it? Whatever it is at the end of the year, that's what he pays zakat on. Okay? Same thing with the shares. The types of wealth that is not, you don't pay zakat on, page 26, and this is what we'll finish with inshallah. Number one, resources extracted from the oceans, such as pearls and fish, unless they become goods intended for trade. If a person was scuba diving and tabarakallah, he went and got pearls, no. Why? Because there's no command that a person has to pay zakat on wealth extracted from the ocean or from the water. That which comes out of the earth itself, he has to pay zakat on. Okay, any ground. That which comes from the water, he doesn't have to pay zakat on. Number two, zakat is not payable on goods prepared for leasing, such as properties, cars, and other such things. The zakat is to be paid on the rent paid if it reaches the value of the nisab and a year passes on it, like we just said. Number three, items for personal use, such as one's car and house. That which you have for yourself, your phone, your laptop, your TV, your clothing, your house, your car, that which is for you, you don't have to pay zakat on. You don't have to pay zakat on. Okay? Only the things that you have, which you want to sell, or the things that you have that you're making money off, the money that comes back in, you add it to the rest of your wealth. Common question also that we get asked regarding this is like machinery. Let's say you have a factory and you've got $1 million worth of machines. Okay, let's say you got machines for those that have joinery companies, they cut. Or maybe, for example, let's say security got patrol cars. Or a person, let's say he's a mechanic and he's got a hoist and he's got all these tools. You don't pay zakat on any of that. Okay, because you're using that for your work. That's just a position. That's a position. Okay. Another common question regarding zakat is if a person is given inheritance, okay, from his parents, so he inherited money, his mother or his father or someone passed away, where he inherited, again, that's wealth. If a year passes on, if a year passes on it, and they have above the nisab, they'll pay 2.5% of that. If it's taban, from the gold, silver, or the currency. These are some very common questions that we get asked. Dave, any questions, Shabab, regarding any of the types of zakat that we mentioned? So, al-an'am, al-kharij min al-ard, عروض التجارة, and الذهب والفضة وما في معناهما.
Just clarification on what you said about the buying and selling of shares. So, most of the businesses now, whether you go in Muslim countries or non-Muslim countries, most of them are dealing with, they run their businesses with loans based on interest. So you're saying that it's better to avoid buying shares?
If a big part of their business is to do with riba, it's haram. It's not better to avoid it, it's haram. You have to avoid it.
So if they've started their business or major part of the business is being run on the loans taken from the...
Yeah, haram. A lot of the ulama said, anything to do with shares is haram. Some of the ulama put, they said if there's a small amount of haram, and they limited that to 5%. 5%. 5% or less of the companies involved in haram, then a person can invest. Some of the ulama, not all of them. And anything more than 5%, haram. So if a person's dealing like a massive part of the operations through riba loans, automatically haram.
If I want to pay the zakat on 1st of Ramadan, and I give it to someone who give it to the poor people, there is certain time for it, or?
If a person gave their money, good question, if a person gave their money when zakat was due, and then the person spreads that out, maybe over a few weeks or a few months from that issue, inshallah. As long as you've given it, at the time that it was due,
1, 2 months.
some say, for example, before the next year. Some would say that before the next year, because zakat is meant to be, inshallah we'll come to know, zakat is meant to be for a person's whole year. And let's say there's a poor person, you're meant to give him enough for the whole year. So if a person was given an amount and he was told to help these people and he helps them over the year with it, no issue, inshallah. But it shouldn't be too delayed. Try your best not to delay too much. If there's a need, give as soon as possible.
Regarding the shares, if you are not selling them anytime soon, maybe you are selling them after 5-10 years, you have to pay zakat on them every year.
No, then you pay on the dividends. If your intention is right now just to benefit from the profit that comes from it, then you just pay on the profit. The dividends that you get, just add them to the rest of your wealth and pay 2.5% if there's anything left at the end of the year. Far out. We're not cavemen, Mustafa. We've watched a few commercials. Any more questions, Shabab? Hamudi.
If it's been the whole year that you got to pay zakat on and you pay on the last day, and you pay to like give it the money to like a charity group, but the money that you send to the charity group, that like, the money doesn't go.
So the exact same question I'm Rogan asked now.
No, he's confused.
Yeah, so if you pay, let's say you paid now, let's say your zakat was due now, and you gave it to a charity, and they give it over the next 2-3 months, no issue inshallah. As long as you paid it on time. طيب سبحانك وبحمدك جزاكم الله خيرا